Hi, my name is Shannon Busey. I'm a professional service consultant with HireView, and welcome to HireView 101 training for Sanford Rose Associates. For today's agenda, we're going to talk for about the next 30 to 40 minutes about the HireView platform. I'm going to walk you through the candidate experience, and then I'm going to talk to you about the user experience, and that's going to be your experience within our platform. And then at the end, we'll have time for a wrap-up. Before we get started with the training, I do want to touch on the support. You do have a huge team behind you as you walk through this implementation. If you have any questions about HireView administration, please email HireView at nextlevelexchange.com. If you have any training support questions, you're always welcome to email me. My name is Shannon. Or you can email Aaron Jacobs or Chad Bean. We'll all be available to you. And finally, if you have any questions from your candidates as you start to invite them to take interviews, please direct them to the HireView 24/7 Support Center. The information is on your screen, but this information is also on the invitation that your candidates are going to be receiving, and you're always welcome to reference them back to that. Now let's get started with the training. The first thing you need to learn is actually how to log in to the HireView platform. So what you're seeing on your screen is the Sanford Rose landing page. And so what a landing page is your doorway into HireView. And it's also the doorway for your candidates as well. Now this page can be accessed directly if you look on the bottom here where it says sanfordrose.hireview.com. Your login is going to be on the top right hand side where it says Manager Login. Simply put in your email address and your password. And right below your password, there's a button that says Forgot Login. So if you ever do forget your password, that's okay. Just click on that button and we'll get it reset for you. Now the other way you can log in is by going to our homepage, hireview.com. And on the top right-hand side, it says Login. So if you click on that button, that takes you to our login screen. And just as with the Sanford Rose landing page, put in your email address and your password. And we also have the Forgot Password option here as well. So once you have successfully logged into HireView, it's going to bring you to your home screen, which is going to look just like this. The first thing you're going to notice is action items. So this is going to be a list of all the items that are requiring your immediate attention. Just to the right of this, we have a calendar, and there's three things that populate on this calendar for you. The first one is any live interviews that you create. The time of those interviews will be put on your calendar. The second thing is as you start to invite candidates to take on-demand interviews, when they complete those, that also is going to populate on your calendar, and it's going to look like this. You'll see a green box, and if I click on that, it's going to tell you the name of the candidate, the position that they've applied for, the time that they took the interview. If there's a resume or a document attached, it'll be listed right here. And then anytime you see a play button in HireView, that means you can watch the interview directly from there. And the third thing that populates on your calendar is when you create a position, an on-demand video position, you have the opportunity to put an end date on it. And if you put an end date on a position, it's going to populate on the calendar and let you know that on this date, this position will be ending. Now, if we look down just a little bit, you see a section called My Open Positions. These are all the positions that you yourself have created. It's going to give you the name of the position, the type of interview it is, whether it's on demand or live, the last update to that position, the number of interviews that have been completed, the number of interviews that have been evaluated, and then you have three options under Actions. So the first action is to be able to view a position detail. So what that means is it's going to tell you what candidates have taken the interview and what hiring managers have evaluated them. The next button is going to tell you how that position was set up. So it's going to tell you what questions were used and then the format that it was in. And then finally, you see this play button. So anytime, again, that you see a play button, that means you can watch those interviews. Now, lastly on the home page is this filter box. And you're going to see one of these on every page that we go to. You can always filter by name. So if you're looking for a position that has the word test in the title, just type that word in, and whatever has that in the title will come right to the top of your list. And then the other option is a sort by option. So this is actually a drop down. So if I click on this button here, these give me all the different ways I can sort this list of positions. And obviously you're going to pick whichever way works best for your process flow. So let's go ahead and start by creating a brand new position. Okay, so now it's time to create a new position in HireView. The first step is to click on this button that says New Position, and you'll find it right above your calendar on your home page. So if we click on that, if you do get an option to select a team, just make sure you select the team that's most appropriate to the position you're going to be creating. In this case, I'm going to do Sanford Rose Associates. And the first thing you need to do is title your position. Now it's important that you title this position just as it's listed on the job posting. You want to make sure that your candidates are comfortable knowing that they are indeed interviewing for the same position they've applied for. So in this case, though, I'm just going to label this as test. Now, if you look to the right-hand side, you're going to see a calendar. So this is your opportunity to put an end date on this position if you want to. And if you do this, this is the date that's going to populate on your calendar that's on your home page. This date will also populate on the invitation that your candidate gets to take the interview. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and leave this no due date. And that just means it's going to be an evergreen position that will not expire. Now your next option is to enable OpenView. So OpenView is a fantastic sourcing tool. Every position you create within HireView, you can get a specific URL link or a QR code. And you can post these on any social media sites, any campus recruiting events, or career fairs. It's a great way to get your candidates to take positions that you've created within HireView. Now, one thing I do want to mention here that within HireView, it's very, very difficult to make a mistake. So, for instance, if we have put a due date on this position, we end up not wanting a due date, we want to switch it to no due date or even push the due date back. You can do that at any time. Same thing with the OpenView link. If you're creating this position and you forget and don't click this button, but down the line you do want a URL code for the position to put it on LinkedIn, you can always go back and get it later, so don't worry about that. Okay, so the next piece of information we need to tell HireView about is how are we going to format this position, okay? So you have three options and they should default them for you probably how you want them, but just in case, let me go through them real quick. The first one is interview type. So you have two options here, on demand, which is what we're going to be doing today, or the live interview. The next one is scoring mode. You have two options. You have per candidate, which means you can watch the whole interview for your candidate and then give them one overall rating and recommendation for hire. Or you can do it per question, and we highly recommend you do per question, because what you're going to be able to do is take one question that your candidate answers, compare their answers to everybody else by doing a cross-candidate comparison using our speed evaluation tool, and it's going to really speed up that evaluation process for you. And I want to talk more about that as we go through the evaluation of this interview, but we highly recommend you do pick per question. So the last one is candidate visibility. You have three options here. The first one is to keep private between you and your administrator. The next one is share within my team, and that's the one that you want because you only want to share your positions and your candidates within the team that you see here, which is Sanford Rose Associates. And then the last one is share within my account, and that just means that everybody within the larger account will be able to see your candidates and the positions you've created, which we don't want. So go ahead and just select share within my team. So the next part is the candidate experience. This is where we really get to build that experience that your candidates are going to have within HireView. So what we want to do here is add a video at the beginning of the interview and then add one at the end. So if you click on add a video, you have several options. Every time you add a video, it is going to be added to your video library. So you may have a long list of intro videos here, which is great. You can also upload a video from your PC if you have one on there that you want to include in your library. Just simply go find it. And then the last option is to record a video. So you can actually sit in front of your computer, hit the record a video button, and just simply talk to a candidate and tell them what the process is going to be, tell them what the organization is like. Very, very effective. But in this case, I have uploaded a video, so we're going to go ahead and pick that one. So I'll go ahead and click choose here. Now the process for selecting a closing video is exactly the same. So I'm going to go ahead and click add a video, and I'm going to select this one. Now keep in mind that when you add videos, your intro video library and your closing video library do not mix. So you're going to have two separate libraries. So let's go ahead and choose this one. And you're going to see where these fall into the interview as we go through the candidate experience. So the next step is to build this interview. So when you go over here where you see add questions, you have three options. We're going to start off with this first option. It's add a new question from scratch. So let's start off with a question we probably all do at the beginning, which is, why did you apply for this position? For this position, perfect. Okay, so you have two options to the right-hand side here. You can add a video for the candidate to respond to. And what that means is if you have maybe some sort of training video or maybe like a customer interaction video that you want the candidate to reply to, maybe how you would have handled this situation differently, you can add it right now to this question. The other option for this is that if you're the recruiter, you can click on this button, record yourself asking the question. You can say, "Hi, my name is Shannon, and why did you apply for this position with us?" Super effective, and it gives your candidate an opportunity to see you as their recruiter. Now, right below that, you have the option to add a JPEG or a PDF. So if you wanted to add a photo or an image of some sort to have your candidate to reply to, you can certainly do that as well. Now, the other thing you can do, to the left here, you see this link button. So you can actually insert a link for your candidates to reply to. So what that means, say if you're going to try to hire a web designer and you want them to go out into the web and find another website and comment about it, maybe how they would design it differently. All you have to do is put the link in here, and it'll pre-fill in this question, and it'll open a new browser too, so they won't lose their place in the interview. So another option. Now there's several different ways your candidate has to respond to these questions that we're going to be creating. There's actually 4 different ways. They can respond by essay, multiple choice or selection, or video. And I'm going to go over all of these, but we're going to start off with the video. So the first thing you're going to notice is this prep time. It defaults in at 30 seconds, and this is just the time that your candidates have to read the question and formulate an answer. This is totally configurable. You can make it be whatever you want it to be, although most people do leave it with this 30 seconds. And if you do want it to be no time limit, which means they have all the time in the world to prepare, you can do that as well, just simply by clicking the no time limit. And then if you look to the right-hand side here, it says response time. It's going to default in as 3 minutes, which is totally appropriate. Most people answer within 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. But if you wanted to raise it, if it's a more evolved question, or maybe it's a shorter question, you can lower it. But again, 3 minutes is totally fine. If you want to leave it like that, you can do that. Okay, so this is our first question. So I'm going to go ahead and select Save and Add Another. And I'm going to go back up here to add another question from scratch. And for this one, I'm going to show you the multiple choice and multiple selection. So why don't we ask something like, what days of the week can you work? Okay, so down here, let's start off with that multiple choice. So what this means is you're going to give your candidates a bank of answers they have to pick from. I'm just going to abbreviate here and make this go a little faster. Okay, and you can add as many as you'd like to. If you saw what I did there, I just clicked on Add Options. You can add a whole list of answers here. And with multiple choice, your candidates out of these multiple answers will have one to pick from. Okay, so they can only pick one. You can even define the correct answer if you want to. So if we're looking for Tuesday, we can simply pick on Tuesday. And then to the right here, it defaults in at no time limit for response time. However, if you want to limit the response time, you can certainly do that. Now the other option I was talking about was multiple selection. So the difference between the two is on multiple choice, they can only pick one. On multiple selection, they can pick more than one. So if they can work on Mondays and Tuesdays, they can select those 2 options. So let's just go ahead and leave it on multiple choice. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Add Another, and we'll do one more. So I'm going to go back up here to add questions, and we'll do another new question. We'll say, give us your best tweet. Okay. So this one, obviously, we're going to do an essay response. So on essay response, you can limit the characters that your candidate has to reply. And for this case, obviously, we're going to do 140 because on Twitter, that's all you get. And you can default text in too, which really isn't necessarily appropriate for this question. However, if you have maybe like a writing sample you want your candidates to reply to, or maybe correct or edit in some way, you can actually default that text in, and then they can go in there and do that. So it's another neat tool on this essay response. And again, on the response time, it's going to default in at no time limit for these essays, but if you do want to have a time limit, you can absolutely do that. Just uncheck that box and put whatever response time you want. But I'm going to leave this as no time limit. So this is going to be my last question, so I'm going to click Save here. So these are the questions that we have, and let's say we just love these questions, but we don't necessarily like the order that they're in, so we can easily change that. You just simply go like this and change them around. Okay. So, and to the right here, anytime you see a pencil in higher view, that means you can edit whatever's next to it. So in this case, we could edit these questions. So if you're looking at them and see a typo somewhere, just simply click on the edit button. You can go in and edit it and save it, and you're good to go. And if you want to delete anything, anytime you see an X in higher view, it means you can delete it. Okay, So as we're looking at these questions, let's say we're very happy with the questions, the order, we're good to go. I'm going to save this as a template. So next time I want to use the same question bank, I don't actually have to type all this in. So I'm going to say test template 9. All right, so let's go back up here to add questions. So we spent a lot of time on this new question button, but the next one was from a template. So if I click on that, here's this template that we just created. So if I wanted to select these questions, I would simply select the template, here are the questions, and I would add them to this interview. Now the other option was from a previous position. So if I selected this would give me the positions, all the previous positions that I've created, and then you can always filter by name if you want to. I could select that. These are the questions, and I could add these questions to the interview. Okay, now it's not going to let you select a duplicate question, which is what that's telling me here. So it actually only added one question for me, which is fine. Now let's say, for instance, that if you're interviewing for maybe an admin specialist 2, and this position was an admin specialist 1, so the questions are very similar, but there is a slight difference. Say maybe like you need 3 years experience instead of 5. Even though you defaulted in those questions from a previous position, you can still edit them and change that number from 3 to 5. So that makes it very simple. But in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that altogether. Okay, perfect. So I think we're in good shape here. So I'm going to go ahead and click this Save button. And this brings me to the next screen. So a couple things are going on this one. First of all, no due date is here, so I can change this date if I decide to from this point. Enable Open View, I can unselect this or select it here. And then the Share button, this is a drop down, so if I select here, I can get that QR code that I mentioned. You can simply hit the download button, and then you can print this on any card, email, any kind of email, or even on a t-shirt. You can get super creative with this. Now, one important thing I do want to point out is this Create Schedule Reminders. This is going to be very, very helpful for you. So if I create a schedule reminder, just select on this box here where it says Send Email Reminders Starting, and it's going to start on the date that you create the position, or actually create the reminder. And anything in this box is configurable. So the way it defaults in is it's going to repeat the reminder to your candidates to take the interview every 3 days. Your candidate will receive a maximum of 2 reminders, and the candidate will not be sent a reminder if it's been less than 2 days since that original invitation went out. And again, all these numbers are totally configurable and can be whatever you want them to be. Now, another neat trick here is that you can do a custom message for this reminder. So every position you set up in HireVue, you can create a schedule reminder and have a message specific to that position, which means I can put a message here saying, "Hi, my name is Shannon. I'm very much looking forward to your interview for this position." Makes it very personal for your candidate and very effective as well. Okay, so let me hit cancel here. So now it's time to add a candidate to this position, and you have 2 options on how to do this. You can upload candidates in bulk. Okay, so let me show you an example of how that's done. If you create an Excel spreadsheet, all you need to do is have the headers that look just like this. First, last, email, and phone. You do not need the phone number here. You do need the header though. And you can upload up to 1,000 candidates at a time. Just save that file as a CSV file, choose it, and you're good to go. Now the other option is to add candidates one by one, which is what we're going to do. So if I add this candidate, hit the Add Candidate button, I'm going to put in this candidate's name. So now all I have to do is click Save, and your candidate is going to get an email to take this interview. So this is the actual invitation that your candidates are going to receive when you invite them to take an interview. As you can see on the left-hand side here, it always is going to tell them the job title of the position that they've applied for, the estimated length of the interview, and this is based on how you set up that interview. There's a link here for instructions and tips for success, and this does link them to HireVue's website. And right below there is where that 3 business days defaults in that I mentioned when we were setting up this position because we did not put a due date on it. And if we scroll down just a little bit more, there's a little bit of information here on exactly what digital interviewing is. So on the right-hand side, everything that I'm doing today can be done on a mobile device. And so if your candidates do want to take this on a mobile device, it's very easy. They can just read this section and find out where they need to go to download the appropriate app. If they want to take it on a PC or Mac, this is the required equipment they'll need there. And then just below that is the 24/7 global support. And I referenced this in the PowerPoint that we went over at the beginning of this training exercise. So if your candidates do call you and say they're having any kind of issues, just refer them back to this invitation and tell them the information they need is right here. So once your candidate has initiated the interview process, this is the first screen they come to, and it essentially tells them the same information that was on their invitation: their name, the position they've applied for, the length of time of the interview, and the required equipment. So all they have to do is click Start Interview Setup, and they do have to agree to the terms and conditions. So here's our welcome video that I had talked about during the position setup.
Hi, I'm Tim Tolan. I'm the Senior Partner of the Healthcare IT and Services Practice of Sanford Rose Associates. We are a retained...
So as you can see, this is going to be your candidate's opportunity to really start to get to know you and what your process is and a little bit more about this position that they've applied for. So let me click the Continue button. So you're going to hear some loud beeps here in just a second as it checks my system to make sure that I am able to do this interview. All right, perfect. One more to go. All right. Perfect. Hi, everybody. So this is your candidate's first opportunity to see themselves. They can check out their lighting, make sure they're comfortable with how they look and how this is going to play as they move forward. So they have two options here. If you see on the bottom of the screen, it says try a practice question, or they can skip to the main interview. So let's go ahead and try a practice question. Now this is just telling the candidates they only have one chance to respond to the video questions. So we'll go ahead and click Continue. Okay, so this is the format for your candidates throughout the interview process. The question will always be on the left-hand side. The prep time is right above where their screen is, and this is that time that's configurable that we had talked about. And right above that is the 3 minutes for the response time, and remember that's what defaults in, but you are able to change that. And then it's just telling them that they have no retries. And then there's also an option here to hide the video. So what this means is when your candidate is taking their interview, if they are not comfortable seeing themselves, they can hit this button and a little curtain will drop down and they won't be able to see themselves very clearly, just see a shadow. And I'll show you that as we move forward here. So let's go ahead and start a practice question. So as you can see, my prep time is counting down, and I need to read this question on the left-hand side, explain why my background and experience would be a good fit. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the Start Record button. All right, so now it's recording me. So let's say I'm giving a very compelling reason about why my background experience would be a fantastic fit for this job. I'll click Done Answering, and let's go review the recording. Okay, so here's the recording. And just keep in mind that during this training, the videos will be slightly delayed just because this is a recording. When you see the videos, there will be no delay like what you're going to be seeing here. Now, at this point, so your candidate has been able to see themselves. Now, something to keep in mind, they cannot do this during the regular interview. During the practice questions, this is the only time they can go back and see exactly how they answered the question. But what they can do is another practice question. In fact, they can do as many as they want to. And that's one of their options here. The other option is to go ahead and start the interview, which is what we're going to do. Okay, so the first question is one of three. It's a video response. Why did I apply for this position? And as you can see, my prep time's counting down. So I'm going to hit the Start Record button, and keep your eye on that button too. So you're going to notice that that button goes away, and I cannot stop this recording right now. I actually have to talk for at least 10 seconds before I can stop it. And the reason for that, it's a little safety net, just in case people double click on their mouse, they are able to answer this question. So let me click this Hide Video button so you can see what that looks like. So as you can see, I can see a little outline of myself, but I can't really see myself clearly. Again, you will not know your candidate did this, but hopefully this will just make them feel more comfortable. So I will click Done Answering. Now what you're going to notice here is that it's prompting me to go to the next question. And why that's so important for your candidate is that they do not have to take this whole video interview at one time. They can actually get up, walk away, maybe the dog is barking, somebody's at the door, and they can come back at another time. They can even come back tomorrow if they'd like to. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the next question now. The next one was multiple choice. What days of the week can I work? And I'm just going to say I can work on a Tuesday. I'll click Done Answering. I'm going to go to the next question. So give us your best tweet. Okay, so I'm going to say, I can't wait to use HireVue. Hashtag awesome. Okay, so I'm going to click Done Answering and go to the next question. And here's our closing video we selected. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click Continue here. And that's it. So the interview is now complete. And your candidate has two options here. They can tell us about their experience, which does take them to a survey that does come to HireVue, and then we're able to share those results with you. Or they can click no thanks, and that'll just take them right back out to your career page. Okay, so now we're back on the home screen. So as you can see, there's been an update under My Open Positions. That test position we created has been added. And as you can see, it says out of the interviews sent, one has been completed, but none of them have been evaluated, obviously, because we haven't evaluated it quite yet. Okay, so let's talk about these tabs you see on top. We have positions, evaluations, and candidates. So remember, My Open Positions are all those positions that you yourself have created. When you go to the Positions tab, these are all the positions you have visibility to, which may be slightly different than those on your home screen. And as you move forward with HireVue, this list may get kind of lengthy, but don't let that worry you. You have those two same sorting options that you do on your home page. So you can always look for a candidate, or I'm sorry, you can always look for a position by name, or you can use those same sorting options that I showed you on the home screen. You can also archive a position. So if you've created a position, you filled it, you can simply archive it, and your list of archived positions will always be here. And then under Actions, you will have the opportunity to reopen it if you need to. So let's go back to the open positions. And remember, anytime you see a play button in HireVue, that means you can watch an interview. So we're going to go to this test position, and we're going to hit the play button, and I'm going to show you how to evaluate interviews. Okay, so starting from left to right, the first thing you notice is you can filter candidates by name. As I mentioned, on almost every screen we go to, you will be able to filter by name. You can also sort your candidates here. You can sort them by any number of items, by random, first name, last name, most recent, but the two you really want to look for is my rating and my recommendation, and I'm going to tell you why those are important in just a second. Now if we move to the right-hand side here, you see a line of numbers. These represent the questions that were in the interviews that were created. And as you can see, I'm jumping around quite a bit. And what that means is that you do not have to watch this interview in order. You can watch it in whatever order you like to. In fact, we really recommend that you start with the question that's the most important to you. So in this case, we'll say it's question number 2. Okay, so what days of the week can you work? And let's say we're really looking for somebody who can work on a Saturday or Sunday. So this top candidate cannot work on Saturday or Sunday, so I gave them 1 star for this answer. And as you continue to evaluate your candidates and rate them per question, you'll be building an average rating for your candidate that you'll see up here. And if you remember back when we created the position and I said it's really important to be able to score or rate per question, this is why. Okay, and then I also mentioned that we have a speed evaluation tool. And if you see this up arrow here and this down arrow here, this is exactly what that tool looks like. So we're on question number 2 on our top candidate over here. Her name is Erin. So I'm going to scroll down and see how Chad answered the question. He can work on Saturday and Sunday, which is great because that's what we need. So I gave him 5 stars. And now we're going to go down and see how Phil answered. Well, he cannot, so he got 1 star. Okay, so let's go to the next question. We'll say that one's number 1, and this is a video response. So with a video response in HireVue, it's just like watching a YouTube video. It's very simple. You can play, you can pause, and then you can change the volume or make it the full screen. Okay? So as we watch this video...
The reason I applied to this position is I think that this is actually a very good fit for my background.
Perfect. So as you can see, and it will be more clear when you see this live. Obviously, being recorded, there is a slight delay. But as he's talking, we're going to say that he answered okay, so we'll give him 2 stars. And again, we're building this average rating. And then I also want to point out this tagging feature. Tagging is really a neat tool. What you can do is tag your candidates with bona fide occupational qualifications. Okay, so I'm going to hit this tag button, and I've already tagged him with relocate and 3 years experience. So I'm going to tag him again, and we'll say he also has an MBA. So these tags are going to live with him throughout his life in HireVue, and those tags are searchable. I'm going to show you that and show you what a neat tool this is. Okay, so let's go back to the speed evaluator. So we're going to now go up to Chad and see how he answered this question. Okay, so we'll say he's talking, and I'm going to give him 2 stars, and I'm going to click this left arrow here, so don't let that worry you. So again, we're building his average rating, and so now we're going to go up to Erin, and we gave her 5 stars for her response. Okay, so something to keep in mind here, that as you continue to evaluate your candidate, you do not have to watch this whole interview to determine whether this candidate's viable or not. At this point, we may scroll down to Phil, and we know that he cannot work the schedule we need, and we didn't like his video response, so he may not be a viable candidate for us. So I'm going to go ahead and do my recommendation for hire as no on Phil. And then as we scroll up, we'll say, Chad, well, he did okay, not our best candidate, but he's still in the running of does not accept the position. Okay, so I put a maybe for him. And then when we scroll up to Erin, and we think she's our best candidate, so I gave her a yes for recommendation for hire. So let's go back over here to sorting. Okay, so you can do two things here. You can sort by your rating, which is the order that they're in, and then you can also sort by my recommendation. So if you expand this out and think of if you had maybe 30 or 40 candidates that you're evaluating, you can see what a valuable tool that is. As you go through and rate those candidates, you can continue to rate them, sort them by that rating, and then your top candidates will bubble to the very top of your list, and those are the ones you want to spend the most time on. And then once you've identified those top candidates, you're going to want to share them. Okay, so we're on Erin here. She's our top candidate. So right under the tag button, if you see the evaluators button, if I click on this, I can share this with one of my hiring managers or one of my clients. So we're going to say Chuck is one of my managers that I want to share the interview with. His information defaults in, and all I have to do is click add, and it'll go right to him. Now, if your person you want to send it to is not in HireVue, so there's no Ann here. Oops, actually there is an Ann here. Why don't we try, we'll try Bobby. Okay, so there's no Bobby. So what we'll do is we'll make an email address for Bobby at Gmail. Okay, then all that I have to do is his first name's already in here, so put his last name in, click add, and this will get sent to him. Very simple to do that. So that is how you view, rate, and evaluate and share your interviews that you're going to be receiving. So let's go back. So that's the positions tab. Again, it's the list of positions you have visibility to. When you click the play button, you'll be able to evaluate all those candidates who've taken interviews for that position. So let's go to the evaluations tab. So this lists all the evaluations you have to do. So under the to do tab, we still have to evaluate the one that we just did. And obviously to do that, you can click on this start evaluating button or the play button. And again, we have a search box here. So if you do have a long list of candidates, don't let that worry you. You can always search by name. Now, we also have a completed button here. So these are all the ones that we just completed. And as you can see, even though they're completed, there's a play button here. So even though you've completed that evaluation, you can still watch that interview again. Now, what makes an interview go from to do to completed is pretty simple. You have to rate at least one question and give a final recommendation for hire. And once you do those two things, use those two evaluation tools, the evaluation will switch from to do to completed. Okay? All right, so let's go to the candidates tab now. As with the positions tab, I said in the positions tab, those are all the positions you have visibility to. Same thing with the candidates. These are all the candidates that you have visibility to. So again, you're going to end up with a very long list of candidates here, but do not let that worry you. You can always search by name. You have this great sorting function here. But on this tab, you also have a filter, and this filter is probably what you're going to use, and it's really a fantastic tool. You can search for tags. So if you remember, we had put some tags on people. So I'm going to click on relocate. So if I want to search for all the people that I said could relocate, here comes Phil because we had tagged him with that. Okay. So I'm going to click the X to take that filter off. So I'm going to click the filter button again. So let's say we wanted to filter all those candidates by what position they applied for. So we'll say we want to see everybody who applied for this test position, who Mike invited. And maybe we also want only people with an MBA. And then also we only want people who've applied within the last 15 days. And I can click done, and then there's Phil again. Okay. So I want to again X one more time here and go back to the filter. The one last thing I wanted to show you on this filter is that if you create one that looks kind of like what I just did, you can actually save the filter where it says save this filter. Then you can name it filter 3 and click save. So if that's something that you're going to be using all the time, it's very easy just to put those parameters in there, save it, and then go to load filter, and then it's right there for you. So you don't have to put in those parameters again. So two more things I want to show you on how to use HireVue. If you've noticed as we've gone through the system, there's been a search box on this top bar, and it's always here, it never goes anywhere. And this allows you to search for a candidate. So let's say, for instance, we want to find somebody whose name is Shannon. Well, Shannon's interviewed for 2 positions, and here they are, so you can simply click on it and go right to it. You also can search for those tags. So if you know you need somebody who can relocate and you're using the tags and using that word relocate, simply put it in here and then the candidate with that tag will pop right up for you. And you may have a long list, but there's a lot of value there. If you think if you're sitting at your desk and you have a client call and say, hey, I have to have somebody with an MBA, all you have to do is type in MBA and you can say, hey, I have 5 candidates for you, I'll send them right over. Fantastic tool. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you is this question mark. And this is actually information we went over during the PowerPoint. This first section is the hub, and the hub is a HireVue community. So I highly urge that you go to the hub, sign in, and you can see how other HireVue users are using our system. But what I really wanted to show you is HireVue support. So I know I gave you a long list of support options at the beginning, but again, if you ever need us, please call us. We have 24/7 support, so you can call us, you can email us, anything that you need, we're going to be here to support you. Well, thank you for your time today, and I hope you found this valuable. And again, if you have any questions whatsoever about HireVue, please reach out and let us know.